And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co host, Daniel Bobo Curlin, on this special Thanksgiving edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I just got to say I'm very thankful for all the viewers, and even you and everyone making this wonderful show possible, and thankful to the almighty powerful Grimace.
The executive producer of our show, by the way.
Yep, exactly. The executive producer Grimace is actually sitting on a living room couch as he does during a he sits somewhere in the living room during Rangers during the games. So he he's taking his seat in the living room during the Rangers game.
Very nice, very nice. So obviously, uh, Grimace is all settled up, ready as the Rangers are just about to take on the Carolina Hurricanes. We got plenty to get into tonight on this Thanksgiving. For us, we're taping it on Thanksgiving Eve right now. By the time everybody on YouTube watches this, it'll already be Thanksgiving. So hope you're enjoying your Thanksgiving. And yeah, Dan, I mean, definitely not a shortage of stories to get into. Basically, the Jets are blowing up the organization. The Giants are blowing up the organization. The Rangers are considering blowing up their roster for some reason. The Knicks is starting to get on a roll, and the Juan Soto sweepstakes is coming to a head over the next week or two. So let's start off with some of the football talk and get this out of the way, because it seems like that's where most of the action is at this point. We'll kick things off, actually, Dan, with your Giants, as your Giants played this past Sunday on at MetLife Stadium against the Bucks. It was not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. The Giants were blown out by the Buccaneers 30-7. And something that I didn't really even hear about until today is that apparently, with 11 seconds remaining in that game, the Giants were desperately trying to drive downfield and just put up another score to make this game, a little more tolerable and a little more easy on the eyes for Giants fans and everybody around the country that had the unfortunate experience of watching this game. But apparently, things got even worse as Coach Brian Daboll, who, to be honest, at 30-7, me and you were talking about how we were surprised Baker Mayfield was still out there. I was even surprised that Tommy DeVito was still out there, and apparently that came back to bite the Giants in the ass as he seemingly injured his forearm with about 11 seconds remaining in the game yesterday, and has been not officially ruled out yet, but it looks like things are trending in that direction, that Tommy DeVito, with his forearm injury, will not be playing against the Cowboys on Thursday on the Thanksgiving game, and instead it'll be backup quarterback Drew Lock starting instead. And this might be the only start that we see Drew Lock on, because if Drew Lock hits a couple of incentives, playing time and things along those lines of the contract the Giants gave him as the backup, the Giants would be on the hook for even more money. So there's a chance down the line that we end up seeing a guy that was on the Jets last year, Tim Boyle, playing for the Giants later this season. So things could get even more ugly. Dan, what's your immediate reaction to this Tommy DeVito news?
Oh, that is just a shame that happens. I feel bad because I mean, there's some people I know on social media that know some of his relatives and stuff, and that said great things about DeVito and everything. Just a shame seeing that to happen to a guy like that, and it's just gonna be another disaster of a game that I'm gonna be sitting through on Thanksgiving. That I'm gonna need industrial sized whiskey to get through the Giants game get through the Giants game tomorrow for sure. Industrial sized whiskey as I'm eating my Thanksgiving dinner. Depending what time the food's ready, I'll be setting up. I'll be setting up one of those mini tables. In front of in the living room while I'm eating my Thanksgiving dinner. Gonna is wearing my Giants gear. And the table. That's what we have. And at least the one thing I could say is that at least the food is good. And you know who I got to give credit to for always doing a great job with the food on Thanksgiving? My mom.
That's right. Hey, I got to give credit to my mom too. You definitely love a great cooking mom on Thanksgiving. So shout out to all the moms and everybody out there that's preparing the meals for Thanksgiving. Hope everybody is enjoying them on this Thanksgiving. And but Dan, I want to get back to your point about Tommy DeVito, and you're right too. Tommy DeVito is a good guy, and I really like the way that he approached um, ascending to the starting quarterback role this year, as opposed to last year, where there was a lot of sideshow aspect to it, where everybody liked the kid from Jersey, and then his agent became a big meme when he was spotted in the audience at the game, and he kind of had that mob type look to him. And then the whole thing with his family and everything. So there was a whole sideshow aspect to Tommy DeVito last year. And I really like the fact that Tommy DeVito specifically told his agent and family to kind of lay low this week, because he wanted the story to be about football and not just about Tommy DeVito and everything that comes along with him. So I thought that was a really mature move by the kid, because it would have been understandable if he just kind of wanted to sit back and bask in the glory of being the Giants starting quarterback again. But the fact that he said, "Hey guys, lay low, and I want to concentrate only on football, and that to be the story," that's pretty respectable from this kid, right?
Yeah. I have to give credit to Tommy DeVito about that. Definitely got to give lots of credit. I mean, he was great. I remember a couple of the last. Well, it was in 2024, earlier this year. The Rangers Isles, the MetLife Stadium. I'm staying a little bit closer than where my seat was, even though my seat was already in the lower bowl. While the Rangers were warming up, right? You see some of the Giants players are they're watching the Rangers warm up, right? And it was easy to figure out that these were some players for the Giants because they were wearing their jerseys. If you remember the broadcast of the game, remember at the beginning of the game, they addressed the crowd. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
Giants players, and they had some Giants players and some Jets players addressing the crowd. I waved at I gave a shout out to Tommy DeVito, and he high fived me. I got to say hi to Tommy DeVito before the game. I thought it was pretty cool getting to interact with Tommy DeVito, and my cousin took a nice little picture of me with Tommy DeVito before the game. So that was pretty cool.
Wow, that is very cool. That is very cool. So Tommy DeVito, man of the people. So hopefully he gets healthy quick and is able to regain his starting quarterback role before the end of the year. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen by Thursday. So we'll probably be seeing Drew Lock there for at least this week. And then the Giants will have a nice 10-day layoff to kind of get healthy again and reassess and see where they stand from a quarterback aspect. But let's also turn the page and talk about a different aspect to what we are witnessing with the Giants now. And there's a lot of word coming out right now, as we all know, that look, the Jet season spiraled out of control, and it cost their head coach and their general manager their jobs. For the first time ever, Woody Johnson firing both in mid-season. It's never happened. He's on the team for 25 years. On the other side, with the Giants now, the Giants have fired one coach mid-season in recent memory that we can remember, and that was McAdoo. But the Giants also don't make a habit of doing that. They're one of the more lenient teams in that aspect, where they don't want to get caught up in that nonsense in mid-season, which is understandable. But it looks like the word that's leaking out right now is that if the Giants get blown out again, like let's just say it's another 30-7 debacle, or 40-0 like we saw on opening night a couple of years ago. If it's anything that resembles that, there's a damn good chance that Black Friday takes on a new meaning for the Giants and their faithful, as the Giants could be cleaning house after that. And word is that the GM and head coach could both be out the door if the Giants don't at least look like an NFL team on Thursday. And Dan, I know at this point it kind of seems like it's inevitable either way. But what's your reaction to that when you hear that if the Giants get blown out on Thursday, you could be looking for a new head coach on Friday?
Yeah, I guess it was going to be inevitable, and it's going to happen. gonna happen, and it's just I just really feel like this is just gonna be another disaster that I'm gonna be sitting through and talking about. For those of you who are watching on Patreon, you'll see us talk about do a little things, do a Thanksgiving little special wrap up show. So you might see me again disgusted by what I saw. Might feel like I was on the satellite of love with Tom Servo and Crow watching a horrible movie. Might feel like that.
That's true. It's true. I feel like speaking of MST3K, it kind of seems like an evil scientist like sent me and you up into the satellite of love, and they're just making us watch terrible football to see our reactions to it, just like they did to Joel in the and Mike in MST3K, just to see how they reacted to the terrible movies. It's almost like me and you were being forced to watch terrible football for the last couple of years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's gonna be worse. Only I think the only thing worse they could find is just find some of the worst stuff they could make me watch. But and again, at least they had two robots to watch Manos Hands of Faith with.
That's true. That's true. Manos Hands of Faith. I'd rather watch Teenage Caveman 100 times than watch any of this crap we've seen in the last couple of years.
Exactly. Oh my god, that's another episode I'm gonna probably end up adding to the little MSC3K marathon I'm setting up after the Giants game tomorrow, because I'm gonna be binge watching a bunch. I'm gonna watch several episodes of MSC3K old school, like an old school Turkey Day.
So, very cool, very cool. Now, just to wrap up on the Giants now, too, we got a couple of last things, and it seems like old news at this point, believe it or not. But this has happened since the last time we were on the air. The Giants did officially release quarterback Daniel Jones. That ended his era from being the number 6 overall pick 5 or 6 years ago for the Giants under the previous regime. And who knows? Maybe the thing that ended up doing in this new regime is that they refuse to move on from quarterback Daniel Jones. So, it's not all his fault, but a lot of it's going to fall on his shoulders because he's the quarterback. And now we know what team he's going to. He's been signed by the Minnesota Vikings, so he's actually in a playoff hunt. And how ironic is it that he ends up going to Minnesota, the team that he knocked out of the playoffs 2 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. How crazy is that? Also, I just gotta say, when I'm looking at the rest of the season, I really look back to what I saw during the Giants training camp when I was there. That it looked like a disaster seeing Daniel Jones looking like he was underthrowing or overthrowing the ball, and just even Hard Knocks off season. The look of disappointment on Brian Daboll's face that they weren't going to get a real quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, but unfortunately though, Dan, this Daniel Jones era has ended. But as a Giants fan, I want to get your perspective. What do you look at the Daniel Jones era as? Because as big of a disappointment as it might have been overall, at least you guys got 2022. And not only did you get 2022 with a playoff berth, you got a playoff victory too. So that's more than my team's gotten over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So as bad as it's been, what are your thoughts on it?
I kind of have to give credit to that at least they had one okay season with Daniel Jones. About it. But it just turned out to be a disaster, and maybe I just feel like the Giants need to maybe go when they draft, get the best quarterback out of a college that's known for producing quarterbacks.
Yeah, Duke definitely, where Daniel Jones came from, not a quarterback school by any stretch. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And just to wrap up with the Giants Cowboys Thanksgiving 4/25. So definitely be on the lookout and be on the lookout for a special Thanksgiving show that night, wrapping up Little Giants football as well on Patreon, patreon.com/ YouTube.com/Best Eating House Podcast.
Yep, exactly. We'll have a show on Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving. I'm not gonna sing that horrible song. But
You know
it's
what?
just
We'll probably have to play that on Patreon now that you mentioned it.
oh my god! Oh my god! That dumb song because it freaking got stuck in my head thanks to freaking O&A.
Yep. Opie and Anthony, you're right. It'll always be stuck in my head too because of them playing that. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. That I'll always remember. And Ron and Fez playing all 18 minutes of Alice's Restaurant.
That's true. You're right. They did always do that. And you know what? I also let's see. You remember the other thing that I remember they used to play it on In Hot Water a lot too with the beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes. Do you know what song I'm talking about?
Yeah, that one they used to play during the Aaron Berg years.
Yes, exactly. So that's another one we're gonna have to pull up.
That's another one. That's another one that makes me miss the Aaron Berg years.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, let me see. Let me see if I can. I think I'm just not sure if you're gonna be able to hear it. So let's see. Let me know if you can hear it.
The sound's not on, so I can hear it.
Yeah. Then we're gonna have to. So if you do want to see it though, you're gonna have to tune in with us on Patreon on Thursday because I didn't pull the clip early enough.
I'm sorry, but I just noticed on my second screen the Rangers game.
Are they losing already?
Yeah, already. Oh, fucking ready.
Well, then you know Shesterkin's in net right now because, as we were talking about on last week's show, that for some reason that guy is just giving up. He's had a habit of giving up goals in the first minute. I don't know what the heck is going on.
Yeah, and you know who else is gonna want to throw a wine bottle at the TV after that? My mom.
Yeah, well, so unfortunate start to the game for the Rangers, but we'll get into them in a little bit. Let's wrap up our football talk by talking about my unfortunate New York Jets. And so obviously, as we discussed last week, you knew that Robert Saleh is gone. That happened in October. We knew that as of last week, Joe Douglas is gone. So, the two head honchos in the organization, for the most part, are out the door. Now we're just left with Woody Johnson and a bunch of question marks. And right now, in order to figure that out and bring in the right personnel to fill these highly, pivotal roles in the organization, it's going to be the 33rd team. This is an organization, a company that was founded by Mike Tannenbaum. If you remember, Mike Tannenbaum was a former GM from the New York Jets. He was the GM for about 7 years. I want to say 2006 to 2012 or 13, right around there. And he came in actually as a capologist under Bill Parcells. So this is a guy that has a little bit of pedigree. He's been with the organization before. Now, let's not get confused. The Jets did not hire Mike Tannenbaum or, by the way, Rick Spielman, who is another guy who is involved with the 33rd team. The 33rd team is what you'd call a search firm that Woody Johnson has hired to help him bring in new candidates for the GM role and the head coaching role. And, obviously I just gave you Mike Tannenbaum's resume. Rick Spielman has a pretty good resume to boot as well. He's been the GM for 2 teams. I know the Dolphins. I forget the other team. And he's also just last year, Rick Spielman was on the team of guys that the new Washington Commanders owner brought in order to help them bring in a new GM and head coach. And obviously that's gone pretty damn well for them so far. So let's hope that Rick Spielman can continue that golden touch he had last year with that team and continue it with the 33rd team, helping the Jets find a couple of new guys. But, what do you think about that, Dan? This isn't the first time we've seen organizations hire, with the help of an outside team. what are your thoughts on Woody Johnson saying, "Okay, guys, I'm going to need some help on this"?
Well, it's gonna be interesting seeing this because it's a very unknown. I don't know if we've ever seen a team have a success like in the success in winning the whole thing doing this yet. Only time will tell during the Washington Commanders about this. But let's see how this goes. And I also kind of find it weird the 33rd team kind of makes me question if they're members of the Illuminati. Apparently, because if they're 33, I forgot what it is. That's a apparently they have this exclusive rich person thing in the Disney World Club 33, which apparently Walt was a member of the Illuminati, and apparently 33 is a power number with the Illuminati, and I've even suspected at times that Matt Harvey is a member of the Illuminati because his number was 33, and I've kind of suspected that with a number of athletes that wear the number 33 for some reason.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's because the NFL has 32 teams. But yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. Maybe David Wells is part of the Illuminati as well, as he's another famous 33.
Yep.
Maybe even Patrick Ewing too. Who knows?
You're exactly because there could be a whole thing of athletes that are members and we don't know about it.
You're right. You're right. We don't know anything about that Illuminati crap. But what we do know now is after his appearance earlier this week on Pat McAfee and speaking with the media and everything like that the last day or two, we know exactly where Aaron Rodgers stands. And it makes me feel pretty good because this is exactly what I've been saying. And, a lot of people have already deemed Aaron Rodgers toast in New York. He's gone no matter what. And they blame him for all this stuff, which if you've been listening to this show, you know I am not that guy. If you want to call me an Aaron Rodgers truther, call me an Aaron Rodgers truther because I'm going to back that guy up 100% of the time. I don't care who's coming against me with Rodgers. I will always support Aaron Rodgers. And this just makes it even more so. As he says, he denies the reports saying that he says that he wants to be a Jet in 2025. We all know Ian Rappaport and all these people with the dubious sources that weren't named and everything came out and said that Rodgers he was going to play in 2025, but it was not going to be for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers explicitly denied that, said he's never told anybody he's close to that, and that if he does play in 2025, which he said that he's in the middle about right now. If the Jets want him back, he wants to be a Jet next year, and he made that perfectly clear. And you know what? The fact of the matter is, right now, it's not up to me if Aaron Rodgers is back next year, and it's not even up to Aaron Rodgers next year. It's up to whoever the Jets bring in as their GM and head coach. Now, obviously, there are a whole bunch of cap considerations aside that maybe the new GM is going to have to take a closer look at, which we've talked about on this show before too. But the thing is, if you're a new GM and you're coming in here with a head coach that you trust, who's a better bridge quarterback than Aaron Rodgers? I mean, you're going to have the guy, he's under contract already, so it's not like you have to sign him and figure this thing out. He's under contract. He's here. He wants to be a Jet, and he feels like he owes the Jets and the Jets fans a good season after, obviously, the injury in year one and obviously the crap that we've seen here in year two. What do you think about that, Dan? It's good to hear it out of his mouth that he put all this crap that we've been hearing from the media for the last week or two and just exactly did that. Just put it aside and called it out for the crap it is.
Yeah, I think that's a really great decision for Aaron Rodgers to speak up about that. Lots of credit we all have to give to Aaron Rodgers about that, for giving credit to that. He wants to come back. He wants to give it a go at it. And I really feel like they're probably going to go in a direction during the draft the next quarterback, let that guy sit in the bench for a year, and have Aaron Rodgers probably give it what's going to be one last go at it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Because not only does Aaron Rodgers not deserve to go out like this, the guy's an all-time great. He deserves to go out with better fanfare than this, at least. And I'm not one of the people saying the Jets owe him, because the Jets really don't owe him anything for the most part. But this just seems like something that makes sense. Like you said, what is a better situation than drafting a quarterback and having him come in to learn under Aaron Rodgers? I mean, it seems like it's a great opportunity for any quarterback, and it would be really, really great if the Jets could go out there, bring Rodgers back for that one more year, the one chance to get things right, and have your brand new quarterback sitting there on the sidelines soaking up everything from this Hall of Famer, and then getting ready to get out there and grab the starting job for himself in 2026. That seems like a slam dunk, right?
Yeah, a slam dunk. Really take a page out of the Green Bay Packers playbook. How they've had 3 generations of talented quarterbacks. How often can you say that? 3, not 1, but 2, 3 generations.
Yeah, and it's not an accident. You're absolutely right about that. This isn't something that happened by mistake. Aaron Rodgers got 2 or 3 years to sit on the bench and soak up everything from the greatness of Brett Favre. Jordan Love got 2 or 3 years to sit on the bench and soak up the greatness of Aaron Rodgers. And now let's hope the Jets can continue that trend with a rookie quarterback of their own. And
another example, if you want to go really further back, the 49ers in that dynasty is Steve Young under when he had those years under Joe Montana.
Steve Young sat as a backup for years. You're right.
And it was like post Montana, they were able to have, after Montana, they were able to have they had a successor right there ready to go. It's not often you could see. It's not often you have football teams that can say that they have their successor ready to go, because we see it all the time with the NFL teams and when they have the Hall of Famer retire.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the Patriots post Brady.
Yeah, and you could go down the list of that too.
And then into other sports, the Bulls post Michael Jordan.
Yeah, or even in football, look at the Broncos post Elway. The Rams post Kurt Warner for all those years. When you look at how a lot of these teams, or even the Pittsburgh Steelers, who've still been competitive, but they've definitely not been the championship team that they were post Roethlisberger. So you're definitely right about that, Dan. When you look at all the examples that are provided,
Then another one, maybe I guess you could say to a degree the Saints post the Drew Brees.
That's true too. Even though they've been competitive, they're definitely not the championship team level team that they were with Brees. You're absolutely right about that. Now, if the Jets are going to get anything out of Rodgers and everything like that, they're going to have to start getting him healthy. Because one thing that we've learned over the last few weeks is that Rodgers has really been battling a hamstring injury really since after that Denver game. And it's starting to show now that maybe he's finally starting to get healthy. I heard Boomer Esiason a couple of weeks ago talking on the radio about, if you're a Jet fan and you've been watching the Jets, that the one thing that's been weird about Aaron Rodgers for the last month or two is that he hasn't been throwing downfield. It's been a lot of short passes, 10 to 15 yard outs, but he hasn't been going back on that back leg and driving forward and pushing the ball downfield. That's just been completely out of his game. And what Boomer brought up was that he believed it was a hamstring injury. Now, this was before anything that we heard regarding the Aaron Rodgers injury. And apparently, Boomer was dead on, because there's been a hamstring injury that Rodgers has been dealing with since about week 5. That was the week that he got the crap kicked out of him by the Denver Broncos defense, which, by the way, everybody wanted to knock Rodgers for putting up 9 points that day. Meanwhile, the Jets could have beat them with a walk-off kick, but the field goal kicker stinks and he missed it. And not to mention, they just held Patrick Mahomes to 14 points the other day. So I think that Denver Broncos defense is pretty damn good, by the way. But not to get completely off track, the good thing about this news is that now Aaron Rodgers, for the first time since week 5, is not on the injury report. Now, that's a good thing, because it's only going to help his case. Okay, let's just say for all intents and purposes, the Jets season's over. They're 3-8. Even if they win out and win their next 6 games and finish 9-8, they're probably still not making the playoffs with all the tiebreakers they lost, losing to the Steelers and the Broncos and all these other teams that are in that mix, the Colts now too. So the Jets aren't going to be getting many tiebreakers if they do run the table. So they're probably not making the playoffs no matter what. But the one thing that could set up Rodgers coming back next year is if he has a good and productive final 6 weeks of the year, and him not being on the injury report is a big step in that right direction. And also, just to finish up on the thing you're seeing on the screen right now, the middle linebacker, CJ Mosley, who has flown under the radar that he's been out for most of this year, battling various injuries, neck, toe, and all this kind of stuff. Mosley being back is going to be a big boon to that defense, which desperately needs some kind of spark, and he's their captain. So getting him back out there is going to be a big step in the right direction too.
Yeah, exactly. So I just feel like the next couple of weeks are just going to be a see what they got, maybe try to build some momentum toward next year. It seems like it's going to be for this team.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dan. And just one more thing on the Jets' injuries. It looks like running back Breece Hall got banged up in the knee against the Colts in the Jets' last game. He didn't practice today when the Jets were doing all their walkthroughs and everything and getting everything set up for the Sunday game against the Seattle Seahawks. So Breece Hall's questionable right now. I think he's going to play, but I think the Jets are just being careful with him, which I don't blame them. But Jets Seahawks on Sunday. We've already seen the Jets lose to former quarterbacks twice this year, losing to Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford, am I talking about Sam Darnold? And losing to, and obviously he didn't play, but the backup quarterback, Zach Wilson, who was backing up. So the Jets have lost already to a couple of their former quarterbacks. So Geno Smith wouldn't surprise me if he puts one on the Jets' chin. But it would be nice to see them go out and actually get a win against one of these former quarterbacks for once, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of looks like it's going to be setting up for that. I also got to give credit to because of the situation how the teams are doing this year. It looks like the rest of the schedule is going to be games on Sunday afternoon. It feels like 4:00 and 1:00. So it's going to be it'll probably be a little easier to rest the rest of the season as it was earlier in the year with so many of these on separate days.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Not too many primetime games left for our crappy teams, thankfully. So that's the Jets will come back from the bye on Sunday against the Seahawks. So that'll be a nice game to check out. Hopefully, Jets get back on the winning side of things because I'm not one of these fans that are rooting for my team to lose. So let's head over right now. We'll save the baseball because there's not too much going on with that. Let's jump into a little bit of this Rangers talk now, Dan. As I saw Larry Brooks put out an article the other day talking about how the Rangers have to blow up this underachieving core. And, man, I just can't disagree with that anymore. I mean, right now the Rangers are 12-7-1. And, by the way, that's after a 3-game losing streak. So, at the start of this, they were 12-4-1, one of the best teams in hockey. But now, apparently, after a 3-game losing streak, GM Chris Drury has reportedly put defenseman Jacob Trouba and left wing Chris Kreider on the trade block. Now, let's be honest. Jacob Trouba should have been traded in July. It's a joke that he's still on this team. He's a third pair defenseman at this point in his career, and he's a terrible, he's just really bad on defense right now. Being on the third string as an $8 million cap hit is untenable in a cap era. When you look at everything, and by the way, Jacob Trouba should be traded. Chris Kreider, on the other hand, the fact that if they trade Chris Kreider, I'm going to be pissed, man. Chris Kreider is one of the building blocks of this team. Sure, he's 32 or 33 years old now, but look at Brad Marchand up in Boston. This guy just keeps getting better with age. Chris Kreider is a guy that I view as our Brad Marchand. If you're going to be stupid enough to trade that guy, what are you doing? And then who else are you going to trade? This is what I don't understand about the Larry Brooks article is that, you put Jacob Trouba on the block. He should have been gone 3 months ago anyway, so who cares? But who else are you going to trade? You're really going to trade Kreider? Who's the other pieces they're talking about trading? Are you going to trade Lafreniere? Are you going to trade Kako? Like the Rangers have so many buildable pieces to have for success going forward. Aside from Trouba, who else are you going to trade?
Yeah, I can't see they're going to do this. I feel like this is just going to be a dumb rumor. And plus, at this point, I feel like the Rangers still have a chance to kind of bounce back, get on a nice little run, and hopefully we're going to see all this. Hopefully, we're going to see all this talks kind of go silent. Especially Kreider, I feel like he's one of the greatest players we've had, and he's just getting better every year, and he comes through on some big moments.
Yeah, the guy's one of the best scoring, goal scorers in the history of the New York Rangers team, and not to mention, I mean, the way he finished off the Carolina Hurricanes last year in the playoffs with that hat trick in the third period. How are we talking about 20 games into the season the next year about trading this guy? I cannot believe that this is what it's gone to after a 3-game losing streak in November. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And look, it's not anybody else's fault that Chris Drury failed in trading Jacob Trouba. Trouba should have been gone in July. Everybody knew this. There's no way you could. He either should have been bought out or traded. And I know they want to do right by him because his wife is having a residency in New York. Who cares? When did this become a charity case for Jacob Trouba and his wife because she's a doctor? I'm sorry. He signed a contract. The Rangers are well within their right to trade him, and he should have been gone in July. And the fact that they're dragging this crap out now in November is just a distraction.
Yeah, just freaking trade the guy already. We could have traded him during the off season, had enough cap space maybe to make a trade for maybe a John Tavares or something.
Or even if they had traded him when they should have, maybe they would have had one of the guys that me and you really had our eyes on was a guy like Jake Gunsel, somebody like that. If the Rangers had traded Trouba, they could have had money to bring in a Jake Gunsel.
Yeah, exactly. This could have been a much better team going forward into the season. Now I'm just gonna hope we get a good run. We just get a good run at this going, and we get in there, and hopefully we go from there.
Yeah. And now the key to the Rangers starting to turn things around now is going to be their health, as Hedl and Kreider are both day to day with their injuries right now. Kreider's been a little banged up. Hedl's been a little banged up. To be honest, I haven't seen the lines to see if they're in tonight, so I'm not really sure if they are in tonight. But either way, they're those are two guys that are dealing with injuries at this moment. So as we said, the Rangers and Hurricanes playing at 7 p.m. currently going on right now. Hurricanes leading 1-0 in that game. So the Rangers are really going to have to wake up. I'm telling you right now, if you want the media and the more emotional fans and stuff like that to start freaking out, if the Rangers lose this game tonight in Carolina, then they're really going to start freaking out because it'll be a 4-game losing streak and it'll be a loss to a team like the Hurricanes that the Rangers, have had this rivalry with over the last few years. So the only thing that could come out of tonight, if it's a loss, is bad news because, this is something where, you just hope Chris Drury doesn't hit the panic button,
Yeah, exactly. This is just going. It's just really scratching my head. They gotta go on something. Hopefully, go on what I'm gonna forever call a grimace run.
Well, look, no matter what the Rangers do right now, it's not going to be a grimace run. For it to be a grimace run, the Rangers would have to be like 10 games under 500 in January. And then maybe it would be a grimace run if they turned it around and made it to the playoffs,
Yeah, exactly. But it still has got to be some mojo when it's going to have to be one of those things that I'm going to have to rub the belly of executive grimace.
Yeah, or maybe offer some rum to Jobu.
Yeah, exactly. Offer some rum. Believe me, Jobu is sitting there somewhere in the kitchen. Hopefully, no one's stole his rum.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, all right. So let's move over to the Knicks now, as things are a little bit more bright on the Knicks side of town, other than or the Knicks side of the Garden, as opposed to the Rangers. As right now, the Knicks are starting to turn things around. They came out of the gate a little slow, but now they've improved their record to 10-7. They've won 5 of their last 6, and they just blew out a very good team, the Denver Nuggets, in Denver, 145-118. Yeah, they dropped 145 points on those guys the other night. So the Knicks were on point all night, and the charge was led by OG Anunoby, who dropped a career high 40 points in that game. Man, if the Knicks can get contributions like this from OG, and Brunson scored 23 last night, but he was able to take a step back. He got 17 assists. Man, if it's looking like a well-oiled machine if all these guys are playing their roles right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I just got to give a lot of credit to that. That's just really really impressive. That run, that win. I may have woke some people up after that win because how it turned because of the time difference.
Yeah,
But it
yeah, it
was
was
still
nice.
it was well worth staying up for, and a nice little win, nice little win by the Knicks. And I think hold on, never mind. I was about to be silent because I thought something happened during the Rangers game, but nothing happened.
All right, all right. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed that the Rangers even things up soon. But yeah, man, definitely big victory for the Knicks on Monday, and things continue tonight as the Knicks continue their West Coast swing. Knicks at Mavericks tip off just started a couple of minutes ago as we're recording this. 7:30 p.m. tonight in Dallas. So it'll be
Yeah, yeah,
Jalen Brunson against his former team, and there's a real interesting article I was reading from Ian Begley earlier, one of the guys that covers the Knicks. And he's talking about how, it's just funny how Mark Cuban and a lot of NBA execs and a lot of the people that run the basketball side of the operations over there in Dallas just let Jalen Brunson walk away for nothing, and none of them viewed him as as a star or a superstar type player.
yep, exactly. Never mind that noise. I just saw the Rangers just tied the game.
Okay, who tied it?
But I don't know who tied it because I had the TV on silent. It looks like a Brzezinski.
Johnny Brodzinski, man. Johnny on the spot. All right, good. Johnny, he always seems
Yeah,
to provide
yeah,
a little boost. So very
yeah,
cool.
exactly. I had the TV on mute. That's why I couldn't really tell who scored that goal. Like I forgot to turn the closed captioning on when the thing was on the mute. Sometimes if I do that on mute, I turn the closed captioning on. But I had the thing on mute, which is good. Speaking of the two screen thing, it's gonna be a two screen thing tonight with the Knicks game. Once we're done here, it'll be a little two screen action, and I'm
That's
pretty
true.
sure there'll
Yep.
be some Giants fans in Texas that are probably attending the game Thursday, are probably also attending the next game today in the same area.
Oh, that's true. That's definitely true. As you're gonna have a nice New York representation there tonight and tomorrow. Tonight, where the Mavericks play, and tomorrow at Cowboys Stadium or AT&T, whatever they call it now. But yeah, so definitely big game for the Knicks tonight. Let's keep those good vibes going and take this a strong West Coast trip home. As when the Knicks return home next week, they'll have a full week of home games, so they'll be able to post up and enjoy themselves here in New York for the first time in a while. But with that, Dan, let's switch over and finish out the show with a little of the baseball free agency talk. Yesterday, the news broke that the Dodgers signed former two-time Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell to a 5-year, $182 million contract. Now, obviously me and you were talking about that last night when the news broke, and neither of us were too thrilled about it. Although, the thing that I really look at this, I didn't want Blake Snell anyway because the guy, he very rarely throws, a lot of innings in a year. He's not that type of pitcher, and he seems to get hurt a lot, and on top of that, walks a ton of batters. He would drive Met fans nuts with the amount of walks that he has. But the thing that I took away from this is that if you're saying that it's going to be 5 years, 182 for Blake Snell, that means it's probably going to be more than that. I'm going to say 5 years, 210, somewhere around there for a guy like Corbin Burns. What do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that's doable with the ownership we have, and hopefully the Mets do get Corbin Burns, and if not Corbin Burns, at least get Max Fried.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the odds are? So obviously we all got one eye on Soto at all times. Obviously, that's the big prize. That's the Yamamoto or the Otani of this year is Juan Soto. So we all got our eye on that right now. But what do you think the odds are that the Mets sign Soto, sign Corbin Burns, and bring back Pete Alonso? Do you think that's doable? Or do you think even with the deep pockets of Steve Cohen, that's way too much money?
I think it's very doable with Steve Cohen. I feel like Steve Cohen is about to show that he's about to say like, oh, the Dodgers could do that. He could do it one better and maybe do it even one better. And maybe this time bring a championship to a fan base that isn't a bunch of fake fans.
Yeah, exactly. The fake Dodgers fans. You're 100% right about that, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that parade, when it finally happens, and I know damn well Steve Cohen wants to get that championship as soon as possible. He wants to have that legacy right away when he bought this team. He knows one thing: his legacy as Mets owner is only as good as if he can accomplish that big one.
Oh yeah.
Especially when I realized something about sports teams owners. I noticed that when sports team people usually inherit sports teams, it doesn't always turn out well. Like the people that they don't really have the same passion about running a team as the people who they inherited the teams from. So I feel like badly Steve Cohen needs to get it done. Because who knows what'll happen? Right. Who knows what will happen with who will ever inherit the team from Steve Cohen? When I got to look at that.
Well, now let me ask you this, Dan. The Mets got to Game 6 in the NLCS this year. Do you think that getting that close to the World Series but not winning, do you think that makes Steve Cohen inspired to spend more money, this offseason and just say, hey, we were 2 wins away from the World Series last year. Let's go balls to the wall this year and put everything on the table to make sure we don't come up short again? Or do you think it goes the other way, where maybe outside of a guy like Juan Soto, who's a generational talent, do you think that maybe he's going to lean more heavily on the version of David Stearns we saw last year, where me and you were very upset calling him Discount Dave, and he's going for all the bargain basement guys who, as annoying as it was at the time, a lot of those guys ended up turning out pretty damn good, and getting the Mets pretty far this year. So what do you think, Dan? Which way do you think this sends Cohen?
I think Steve Cohen's just going to go big on this one. My just hunch is Steve Cohen is going big on that one. He just saw that there was just pitching that could get us there, but there's just pitching that could not handle that much of what this pitching staff did. We brought in pitching that just never been known to do that much.
Yeah. And let's be fair too. That pitching staff shut down, especially from, mid-June on when they clicked in. That pitching staff, as mediocre as their career records may have been, shut down the opposition up until they met the Dodgers. And look, the Dodgers have the type of lineup that we've never seen in the history of Major League Baseball, with 3 MVPs in it, and just the insanity that goes along with it. even their role players are pretty damn good. And you see a guy tearing the Mets up in the NLCS, like Tommy Edman. So I do agree with you. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out, because they can really look at it from both perspectives. But we were just talking about that big contract the Dodgers gave out to Blake Snell, and I just want to point out real quick, just for the record, after Major League Baseball went out of their way, they rigged the system against Steve Cohen and the Mets. Specifically, they were calling it the Steve Cohen rules they put in this new CBA. And then, over the last 2 seasons, Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball have allowed the Los Angeles Dodgers to get away with murder with the deferred money in these contracts. Absolutely ridiculous what they have allowed to happen. That Shohei Ohtani contract from last season, the $700 million deal where he's only getting $7 million a year right now, is the biggest joke in the history of sports. Like, bar none. There's no contract that's even close to what a joke that contract is. And the fact that they allowed them to do something very similar to that this year with Blake Snell is even more ridiculous, because the team just won the World Series. Like, what do you want to do? Why don't you just name them World Series champions already? Rob Manfred apparently only has interest in policing what the New York Mets do, not the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I don't even get it much with this team. It would even make it even more sweeter if the Mets beat the crap out of them in the playoffs.
It would have. Imagine that.
Yeah. It would if that happens this year. I mean, in 2025, that'll really make it extra sweet. I can tell you that.
You got that right.
I can tell you that because I have a feeling that's going to happen in 2025. It's going to happen. And
God's ears, my friend.
Yeah. I just have a feeling, and I can tell you it's gonna be huge.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, it's gonna come to, and I will be. Trust me, I will be celebrating. And the thing that also makes me annoyed. Remember that Bobby Bonilla contract? He's making a shit ton of money after he retired. It didn't do us jack shit during that time. And
no.
Of course,
technically, Dan, just to get a little correction, technically, the cheap Wilpons did that contract so they could acquire Mike Hampton. That's when the Mets pulled off the Roger Cedeno deal, where they picked up Mike Hampton and Derek Bell. And the word is that the reason why the Mets did that deal with Bonilla was to kind of soften the blow of acquiring the money from those two guys. So, as stupid as it is that 30 years later, that contract is still $1 million a year for Mets ownership, it did help them get Hampton, and without Hampton, the Mets don't go to the World Series in 2000.
Yeah, so you kind of have to give credit to that, but at the same time, just the thought that it just still happens with nothing really to show for it, a championship to show for it. Yet you look at a situation like the Dodgers, who have signed Shohei Ohtani to what is a Bobby Bonilla type of deal, and they have the championship forever to show for it, regardless of how many people will be able to say heckle Dodgers fans the way they do with us Met fans. I'll be able to say to every Dodger fan I know, happy Shohei Ohtani Day. They're going to still be able to show me pictures of them wearing a world champion shirt. And me.
Yeah, and not only that,
and at least up until they win it, hopefully they'll win it in 2025. So it's not going to be too long that I have to live with this. But for the time being, all I have to show for that, it's with the history with that Bobby O'Neill, is me wearing a throwback Mets 1986 World Champion shirt that I bought on eBay at a good deal. By the way, I paid like $25 for that shirt on eBay.
Well, Dan, the difference too is that, look, as much as obviously the championship, you can hang that on the wall and have that forever. You're 100% right about that too. But they also got one of the best seasons of all time out of him, and it's only his first year with the Dodgers. The guy hit 50-plus home runs, stole 50-plus bases, hit 300. He had one of the best years in the history of Major League Baseball. So you could also have that and all those memories for the rest of your life, and everything he's going to do after this now. The Mets in 1999, Bobby Bonilla hit 160. If maybe the Mets got the production from Bonilla his first time around, where 92 to 95, he was actually a productive player on that first contract. By the time 99 and 2000 rolled around, Bobby Bonilla was washed up. So it's just, it's just ridiculous that it comes down to this. But it's typical Mets, par for the course, right?
Yeah, exactly. I just feel, and I feel like we still deal with that Wilpon stink because they own SNY. Which, by the way, I feel like SNY has done a horrible job. By now, I've seen in past off seasons, they're rerunning the crap out of big moments from the previous season. Even Thanksgiving weekend, you see a marathon of those moments.
Yeah. Well,
I haven't.
If I have to see the 2018 Mets yearbook again, I'm gonna throw up. Whoever runs the programming over there at nobody wants to see the 2017 or 2016 Mets yearbooks. Those are years that it was like, torture to sit through those years. Like, I don't want to relive it again, especially on a holiday weekend, like you just said. What are they doing over there?
Yeah, exactly. Even though the fair to discount 2016, we did get to the playoffs.
No, I didn't say 16. I said 17 and 18.
Oh, so you accidentally said 16.
Well, I said 18 and 17, but either way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm shocked I haven't seen yet one rerun of some big moments that they could rerun during the 24 season. You'd think they would be rerunning like crazy that game when I don't know that game when I think Winker got that walk-off home run. They could have got that. I think there was a game when Lindor got like a big hit, that JD Martinez walk-off home run. They could air that come from behind win, re-air that come from behind win with Lindor that got us into the playoffs that I just rewatched not too long ago because I still have the game saved on my DVR.
Yeah, or the game in Toronto where they were getting no hit into the ninth inning and Lindor hit the home run and the Mets exploded for 6 runs. Like, there are so many moments from this season that I would rather see than anything from the 2017 or 18 seasons. So do us a favor, SNY. And I only am pointing out those two things because I saw the 2018 yearbook on recently and I just shook my head because I was like, what Met fan after the season we just had wants to relive 2018? SNY is so disconnected from their fans. It's like they have no idea what we want to watch. But either way, yeah, what are you going to say, Dan?
And thank God I have some of these things still saved in my DVR still. Somehow I have it. I still have them saved on my DVR so I can look at that. I might even just have to make game look at that Pete Alonso come from behind win against the Brewers in the wild card round, which I was at that watch party at Citi Field. There was a road game that the one that you saw me being interviewed on Fox 5 News.
Yeah,
watch that.
Yeah, exactly, man. So sometimes you just got to do it yourself. Exactly. So, all right, I think that's just about going to do it for us today on this Thanksgiving edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. I want to thank everybody once again for hanging out with us and talking some New York sports. Dan, before we get out of here, do you have anything like to plug for yourself?
Sure. My Twitter, Bobo103NYC, Instagram, Bobo718DK, YouTube, one word, Daniel Curlin, for all your Bobo content. Of course, your Patreon subscribers, you guys get early access to that, and definitely subscribe. It's only $5. We both of us would be very thankful for it. It's only $5. You'll support the show, and you'll get access to our very special Thanksgiving edition of Best Seat in the House podcast tomorrow, featuring us wrapping up the game between the Giants and the Cowboys. And I gotta say, a little recommendation to the NFL. I saw a picture of what the coin looks like during the coin toss. Even though the season hasn't gone well, I like the design of the coin for the game. Like has an image of John Madden. I think it's like a neat little thing that they pay tribute to John Madden. Like it has, like on one side has a picture of John Madden, and on the other side a picture of the turducken that you would always see John Madden and everyone in the broadcast booth with him eat on the Thanksgiving Day. I gotta really give credit to the NFL for paying tribute to a guy that's become synonymous with football, and his voice and his legacy is a lot more for all you people who are maybe too young to understand it. than just a name on a video game franchise that you're always playing on.
Well said, Dan. Well said. Shout out to the great John Madden. Miss that guy, one of the greats, no doubt about it. So, on that note, as you can hear Mr. Maloonigan, and you know what that means, everybody. That means it's the end of the show. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Mr. Maloonigan saying Happy Thanksgiving in the background. And with that, I'm your host, Rob Kramer. This is my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. We hope everybody has a very happy Thanksgiving for you and your families. And we'll see you on Patreon on Thursday, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll catch you later.
Push the button, Frank.